This is the Padua Podcast Network.
She ate lots of chocolate, 2 pounds a week. Running a Fever, episode 170, Living to 100 and Beyond. Jeanne Louise Calment. Welcome to Running a Fever. Michael Davis here. Good morning, everybody. It is early morning for me anyway. Good afternoon, good night, whatever it is for you. And I just noticed something. It's kind of a strange time. It's humid. It's a beautiful day, of course, Lake Fayetteville. The moon is out. I've got my headlamp on. It's getting light, but it's at that time in the morning where, I heard the rooster crow a little earlier. But there were tornado alerts last night. I got a tornado alert on my phone at like 2 a.m. Amazing how busy this street is at 5 in the morning on a Sunday. And so I got out here today and the ground is completely wet. I walked through a puddle earlier, but it's not raining at all. And the sky is fairly clear. There are kind of clouds around the horizon. And the weather forecast calls for no rain. So it's a good thing. But it's weird because I can actually see my breath, something normally associated with cold weather when the air is really dry. And right now it's really humid. So anyway, it's really strange, but strange is beautiful in a way. It's something different. It's a different part of nature that I don't ordinarily see. And it's dark, and I started at the Botanical Gardens, so they had little lights decorating a bridge there, the first little bridge I go across. No doubt to help anyone who happens to be walking around in the dark to not fall into the creek. And I think that picture is going to turn out really well. I'm going to use that as a featured photo for some episode probably, but not this one. Why? Because I'm pretty sure the featured photo is going to be of our subject. And our subject today is Jeanne Louise Calment. My French is a little rusty. Took French in high school and college. But pretty sure that's the way her name is pronounced. Jeanne Louise Calment. Who is this person? Well, this is the 11th in our series on super-centenarians, living to 100 and beyond. And a super-centenarian, of course, is someone who has lived beyond the age of 110. And she is the number one. She's the oldest documented person to have ever walked the earth. Possibly not the oldest person ever, but in terms of the documentation we have, the modern methods and everything, she's the oldest. So this is our 11th in our series. Jeanne Louise Calment is the queen of longevity. She has been considered the oldest person to have ever lived, as verified by modern standards. And this has been the case since 1996. Over 20 years she's held that record. Of course, she passed away in 1997. So only a year after she was confirmed to be the oldest living person ever. She lived from February 21st, 1875 to August 4th, 1997. A total of 122 years, 164 days. Her age has been challenged by a researcher who claims that Jeanne Calment's daughter assumed her identity in 1934. But her case is well documented, as she appeared in 14 census records starting in 1876 when she was 1 year old. So that's one of the things they look at is census records, and the census, I believe, will usually tell how old you were at the time. You know, they come to your house and they say, okay, who lives here and how old are they? What do they do? That sort of thing. That's what a census is. She was born in Arles, which sounds like a home to pirates. She had a brother who lived to the age of 97. So he was a youngster when he died. And she went on to live another 15 years after that. She attracted a lot of attention, and medical studies were done on her health and lifestyle, as she was the first person well documented to live beyond 120. So once that happened, people started to get pretty interested because we've gone into a new level of longevity. She was very creative at an early age. She played the piano and painted. She led a leisurely lifestyle. She was the wife to the heir of a drapery business, and she pursued many hobbies, including fencing, cycling, tennis, swimming, roller skating, and mountaineering. And she continued to play the piano, of course. So you might notice that a lot of those are physically active hobbies. She had only one child and one grandchild. Perhaps she knew she would live a long life. In 1965, her only grandson died, and that was her heir. So unlike some of the longer-lived people on our list that had over 100 living descendants when they died, she did not. She did not have, perhaps her son, I'm not sure, but certainly her grandson, and that would be her heir, died in an accident. So at that point, she knew she would not have an heir, and of course she was, as you know, pretty well off. So she sold her apartment, and you might not know this, but I went to law school, and property law was one of my favorite things. I've also been a real estate broker. This kind of thing is just interesting to me. One of the things you can do in property law is you can create what's called a life estate. And a life estate is possession, the right of possession for your entire life. I can say, okay, for example, a use for this might be, families in the farming business, right? And so you've got patriarch, matriarch of the family, grandma and granddad that have moved to a smaller house on the property, and the large house is occupied by the younger son or daughter with a large, family, children, and so forth. And you decide to transfer the property to your descendant, but you want to maintain legal possession of the property. So you transfer and retain a life estate, and you have the right of possession, which is one of many rights that you have. And you can stay and live on that land until you die. You don't necessarily have to live on it, but you can control that land until you die, no matter how long it takes, which is amazing. And she, of course, lived a really long life, so she took full advantage of this, and she sold her apartment, retaining a life estate, and she also roped in a monthly income for life. And so 1965, she was 90 years old. So, you know, the purchaser is saying, oh, she's 90. Sure, yeah, no problem. I'll let her stay there a couple of years. That's all I have to do, right? And pay her. So she actually outlived the man that she sold it to, you know, because she lived another 32 years. And so the family that inherited that property had to keep paying her all this time. So pretty smart move on her part, and she stayed there for a long time. She got a lot of media attention in 1986, which was the centennial of Vincent van Gogh's move to her hometown. At that time, she claimed to have met him when she was a teenager, because she would have been 111 at that time. She smoked one cigarette after dinner until she was 117. She rode a bicycle until she was 110. Folks, riding a bicycle until she was 110. How many people do you know that are exercising that late in life? I mean, obviously people don't live that long, but I mean, even in their, 60s, 70s, 80s, how many people do you know are still riding a bike? She said apparently she would do some gymnastics. That was part of her daily routine, was doing some, I guess, seated gymnastics, some exercise of that sort. So very physically active. She prayed every day at her window near the end of her life. She lived on her own until the age of 110. That would have been 85. And then she moved into a nursing home. 110 when she moved on to the nursing home from that apartment that she had been getting for free for 20 years. And still controlled, so she could rent it out at that point. And the reason was she got frostbite. She did not have artificial heating in her home, I guess, and she never used it, and she got frostbite. At 114, she was in the film Vincent and Me, which I believe was about Vincent van Gogh, in which she was walking on her own. Later that year, she broke her leg, and she was in a wheelchair thereafter. So for the last 13 years, or man, my math is just really bad. 114. So the last 8 years of her life, she was in a wheelchair. But, I mean, that started at 114. So to be ambulatory at 114 and, still cycling a couple of years earlier than that is pretty good. And it's only because she broke her leg. What was she doing when she broke her leg? I don't know. She had a very youthful appearance and reportedly looked younger than her daughter. And she bathed herself every day. She was taking a bath on her own, even though she was wheelchair bound, right up to the very end at 122. That's amazing. The quality of her life is, we're going to talk about this, but the quality of life is really good for this person who's the longest lived person ever. And that may tell us something. She listened to music at night when her eyesight started failing. Before that, her favorite activity was doing crosswords, which again, this is a mental activity that, keeps your mind sharp. You have to think. You have to practice your memory skills. And she was religious, went to Mass on Sundays and Vespers on Fridays. Vespers is kind of a prayer meeting, probably at her nursing home, I would think. She was not incontinent, at least till the age of 115, which is also amazing. She was mentally sharp till the end of her life. That is fortunate. I mean, this is what we're talking about here. This is my goal, to live a long, healthy, happy life up to the very end, and it sounds like she did just that. Well, I think it feels colder than it is today. Maybe because of the moisture in the air, but temperature was about 71 when we started. It's a very fragrant morning, and I can smell honeysuckle, and there's a big patch of it off to my right. And that's awesome. So you gotta get out. Maybe get out while you're listening to this, because there's no, as far as I know, there's no digital transmission of smell. You know, sight and sound you can get, not smell, not touch. So, sorry, I can't do that. If I could, I probably would this morning because it smells pretty good. It's starting to get light out here. I've turned off the light on my headlamp. And we're moving on. All right, so what kind of diet do you have to get to be 122? Well, Jeanne Calment. For breakfast, she would have coffee with milk and rusks. Rusks are, kind of like the word sounds, hard, dry bread. I don't know. Maybe you dunk that in your coffee or something at 122, I don't know. She had dessert with every single meal. Braised beef was one of her dishes that she enjoyed, and she also had fruit salads. And every day she would make her own fruit salad with bananas and oranges. She ate lots of chocolate, sometimes 2 pounds a week. I mean, they had to probably truck it in, you know, just leave a pallet of chocolate at her door. That's a lot of chocolate, folks. And she'd have wine after dinner. Well, this is a really tough diet, isn't it? Well, I don't know. I don't know how much she weighed at 122, but, you know, in her teens, her 100-teens, she was still exercising, you know? And that probably carried through, and my guess is that her metabolism overall was a little higher just because of all the things she did. But it's also different from person to person. You know, I don't know if I could eat 2 pounds of chocolate every week and still maintain my girlish figure, my boyish figure, but she did okay with that. So there's the diet. And of course, I'm sure she was asked many times, what's your secret? How did you live so long? Well, she said a diet rich in olive oil. And she also used olive oil directly on her skin. So that's probably one reason that she looked so young. She would use olive oil and powder like every day, I think. Calmness. That's when they call me Calment. Calmness. Her name literally was Calmness. All right, well, what do we learn? We always want to take something away from these and see if Jeanne Calment's life was relevant to you and me. Well, you might want to consider the olive oil thing. I mean, I already have extra virgin olive oil with a lot of my foods. I no longer use your standard vegetable oil or bacon fat, except on rare occasions. I think I still have some of that in my fridge, but it's been there a long time. Probably needs to go away. Prayer. You know, she prayed every day, and she had a religious routine. And more than once a week, she went to services and she prayed every day. That was probably a great stress reliever. You know, she said she was calm. And all of these things probably added into that. I don't know if the chocolate made her calm, but the prayer certainly had an effect. Activity. Obviously, she was involved in lots of sports, lots of different sports. And this is something that I'm trying to do. You know, last week I played racquetball twice. This is the routine I'm trying to get into. And it was great. And I'm not, I was a little sore. My ankle was a little sore. Knee, I started wearing my knee braces when I'm playing racquetball. Because sometimes I'll hit my knee with my racket because I'm a little clumsy right now. But that's one of the things I'm trying to do. Skating, and here I'm gonna just go ahead and say this right now, and I'm not gonna cut it out because it's gonna be recorded for the entire planet to hear that I am now making a commitment to put my roller skates on every single day. Even if I don't go out, even if I don't even stand up, I'm gonna put them on today and every day, at least until I start using them on a somewhat regular basis. But racquetball is good. I'm actually considering going to 3 times a week. You know, I mean, right now I'm walking a whole lot, but we'll see how it goes. But for now, twice a week is what I'm aiming for, and that allows me to have a day quote unquote off, although today I'm walking on my day off. But I really want to walk today. Been inside for reasons of sunburn this week. But, that's my plan right now, is to stay active by playing racquetball twice a week, which is really good. It's the first time in a while I've had aerobic activity on a regular basis. I've got that twice a week, and still working out and weightlifting, lifting weights 4 days a week. So I am actually working out 6 days a week now, alternating. Monday and Friday are the racquetball days, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday are the weightlifting days. And tomorrow is Memorial Day. By the way, let's just have a salute to all people who have fought for their various countries throughout the world. In the United States, we celebrate this on this day, one of the Sundays in May. I guess it's the 3rd or 4th, I don't know. But it is Memorial Day. And tomorrow is the holiday. I guess tomorrow is actually the day. It's always on a Monday, so you can have a long weekend. It shows kind of where our priorities are. But yes, typically a day of barbecue and such activities starting the summer, the official start of summer. But Memorial Day is tomorrow, and I have the day off. And I'm going at 8 o'clock to play racquetball tomorrow. So the gym is not going to be open until 8, and I don't have to work anyway, so it's fine. I will be up early, but I will be playing racquetball tomorrow, so I won't miss a day just because it's a holiday. That's good. So, long story longer, that's what I'm trying to do. Put a little variety in my exercise routine, and that's been a kind of a goal, something I've been struggling for a while, and continue to try to do that. Coffee. She had coffee every morning. Whoever is saying that coffee is bad for you, I don't know. I'm not seeing any evidence of that, wherever that idea came from. Obviously, if you drink too much of it, it can be bad for you, and even dangerous, really, because of the caffeine content. Maybe something else. It's very acidic. But in moderation, appears to be very good for you. Blue Zone's data seems to indicate it's one of the common things, drinking coffee. Crosswords. She did crosswords, and we need to continue to do things that keep us mentally active. Get your brain engaged in something. So I want to leave you with a quote from Wikipedia on a study of super-duper centenarians, which I'm calling anybody that lives over 120. Bertrand Jeanne Robine and other researchers compared Jeanne Calment with nearly 20 people worldwide who had been verified to have reached at least 115 years of age. So I guess that's a super-duper centenarian, 115 or older. They concluded that the lives of these people differed widely and that they had just a few common traits. Most of them were female, only 2 were male. Most smoked little or none at all, and they had never been obese. They all had exhibited strong characters, but not all were domineering personalities. Although they aged slowly, all became very frail, and their physical fitness declined markedly, especially after age 105. This all sounds ridiculous compared to what we're used to in the normal population, but this is a study of people over the age of 115. In their final years, they required wheelchairs and were nearly blind and deaf, but they did not fear death, and they appeared to be reconciled to the fact their lives would soon end. And I think that does happen when you get to an advanced age. I've seen that in my own experience and people that I've talked to. And perhaps it'll happen to me. I mean, I know my life's going to end. I'm not ignorant to that. But not exactly welcoming it, not ready for it, even if it comes at 115. My goal is to live to 120 or later, just like Jeanne Louise Calment. All right, well, that concludes. You know what? It's not going to conclude the series on super-centenarians, because I'm going to have a bonus episode about undocumented super-centenarians. That should be interesting, but it's going to be a while before you hear that. So, hope you enjoyed that. I'd love to hear your comments, especially if you're over 100. Send them to mail@runningafever.com. So, if you got the fever, keep it. If you don't have the fever, then go out and catch it. And I'll talk to you next time on Running a Fever.